So I know that question can sound a little threatening, right? Like, what do you mean, is what I know about the Bible wrong? But let me explain what I mean. So in episode 1 last week, we talked about what is theology. And so theology is, of course, the study of God, but then really closely and really, I think, of utmost importance first, primarily, is what do we believe about the Bible, which is God's Word. And so here, so many times in our culture, at least in the West today, we see that the Bible is about three things that it's actually not about. And here they are. The first, the Bible is not about rules. So many times when you hear the Bible taught or when you hear the Bible referred to, it's about rules, do this, don't do this. It's about laws and about trying to meet those things. But that's ultimately not what the primary purpose of the Bible is about. The Bible is also not about primarily you becoming a better version of yourself. So even if it was about the laws, you couldn't become this better version of yourself. It's not about you becoming yourself 2.0. It just doesn't work that way. And then the third thing that the Bible is not about is it's ultimately not about us. Like, we're part of the story, but we're not the point of the story. Do you get that? We are part of the story of the Bible, but we're not the point of the story of the Bible. So those are three things that the Bible is not about. So then what is the Bible about? And I think we take that third thing that the Bible is not about, and that gets us to what the Bible is about, and that's this. Since we're not the point of the story, who is? God is. Here's three things that the Bible is about. Number one, it's about God. And so we see the story of God. We see the glory of God put on display in His Word. The second thing we see about God is that His kingdom is perfect. So we all crave, I think deep down inside, we're wired to crave justice. We're wired to crave righteousness. We're wired to see things in the world that are wrong and to try to fix them, because that's the way God's character is. Where His kingdom is, all things are right and they are perfect according to His will. And then that's really what points us to the third thing about the Bible that is true. It's about God's kingdom invading the kingdom that is currently over the world. So that might sound a little like spooky, or it might sound a little mystic, but let me kind of clearly explain a quick overline of the Bible. When God created the world in Genesis, He created in perfection. And so we were walking in perfection with God in His kingdom there in the garden. But then when we sinned, when we disobeyed, when we committed high treason against God, what happened is that we chose to create our own kingdom. And so God gave us what we chose. He gave us what we wanted. And so there was a split between the kingdoms, so the kingdom of evil and ultimately of Satan, of which we chose, and then God's kingdom where all perfection is. So the rest of the storyline of the Bible is about, and really God addresses this in Genesis 3. He says, listen, I'm going to provide a way for you to be brought back into my kingdom through a descendant of the woman Eve. And so we see throughout the storyline of the Bible, it's about God bringing humanity back into relationship with Him, but it's ultimately about God giving Himself, or God bringing Himself glory in that. He's showing off His beauty, He's showing off His love, He's showing off His mercy and grace in those acts. And so all throughout then the New Testament, it's not primarily about saving humanity from hell or anything like that. It's primarily about God invading this kingdom of the world right now with His Son. So when Jesus comes, it's about Him invading the kingdom of darkness, and about the process then of Him becoming the new king who would kick the old king, which is Satan, out of the world, and then things would begin to be brought into perfection, into justice, into righteousness with that. And again, that then gets us to the end of the story. In the book of Revelation, it's not about God coming back and ultimately judging. Like, Judgment Day is part of it, but it's not the point of it. The point of it is that Jesus is going to bring His kingdom into fulfillment, and that all that was wrong in the world before and right now is going to be made right. And so that's why the Bible isn't ultimately about us. It's not about rules. It's not about us becoming a better version of ourselves. It's ultimately about God and His kingdom, and all that is good and right will be made what is the main thing when this world is fixed when Christ returns. And here's the deal. Until then, He's invited us to be part of that invasion where we're bringing love and justice and righteousness to the world. And that's why I think really theology is so important, is because when we understand correctly about God and the things that we believe about our faith, it then produces action. And then when we understand specifically what the storyline of the Bible is about God bringing His kingdom into fulfillment with Jesus, then we start taking action in that today by loving Him first and loving our neighbors sacrificially. So do that. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great weekend. But do this. Begin to invade the kingdom of darkness now by being salt and light and loving those around you like Christ has called us to. Have a great weekend.